Well, yesterday was International Women's Day, and the women weren't just sitting down and just celebrating. No, they were at the gates of the National Assembly, and in the different states, the wives of governors led women to protest the rejection of bills which are supposed to ensure that both genders are recognized and given equal footing in Nigeria's constitution. Well, yesterday, the House of Reps, that's the House of Representatives, in a surprise move, one would say, decided to rescind its decision on 3 of the bills. You already saw them there: affirmative action, talk about indigenization, and also allowing women who marry foreign nationals to be able, for their foreign husbands to be able to enjoy this citizenship of Nigeria. So they did that. They said they're going to reconsider. So it's not exactly uhuru yet. But let us ask if this is a step forward. To our guests here this morning, we have with us Honorable Benjamin Kalu, who is the Chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Honorable, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we also have Madam Ene Obi, who is the convener, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. You're welcome,
Country Director, Action Aid.
Yes, we mustn't forget that part.
Yeah, they are the ones paying me.
Good morning, ma'am, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a busy last 2 days, last couple of days since the House of Reps, generally, the National Assembly rejected those bills in the Constitution Amendment, which is currently ongoing. Yeah. What would you say the reception of the protest has been so far?
I think it's been wonderful. You know, it's been great. You know, since the rejection, we've been at the gates of the National Assembly. Very responsible, you know, women, you know, we're dedicated to that. And we are happy that we have been at the gates of National Assembly. We are aware that there are several gates. We didn't block all the gates. We just went to one of the gates, and we are able to at least stay and protest against the bills. They threw them out of the window. So we are happy about the development that the National Assembly, we wanted to see the leadership. For the first day we were there, we wanted to see Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, you know, who is a Speaker, House of Representatives, and we wanted to see the Senate President. None of them came out. They sent messages. They wanted, you know, maybe some of them wanted discussions, but we did not move anywhere. They still send the women, you know, members of the parliament. A number of them came at different times. We've had visits from the, you know, some of the first ladies. You know, they were, on each day we're having some visitors. And yesterday was the celebration of International Women's Day. Because this thing is happened, it started on the 1st of March, which is a month for women. And so we found, you know, it was like a big slap for us, you know, and we feel that Nigerian women are on trial, and that's why we are still calling on all women, wherever you are, you know, that the state of the National Assembly gate is where you need to be from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. If you cannot come, bring water and let people drink, because the sun is so, it's really humid out there, People drink almost 4 bottles of water, but we make sure that people keep rehydrating. Medical women, you know, doctors, Medical Association of Women Doctors, or is it Association of Women Medical Doctors? They are there. They have their ambulance, you know, and they are working with us. International Federation of Women Lawyers. They are also there. All categories of women. Professionals are there. Market women are there, and so we have women from the rural areas. And these are women who know the issues. We are not just mobilizing because we want people to be at the gate. And so it's been wonderful. Different sectors of professional women. Some of them will say, I take water. This one say, I take this one. And we have been okay. So we're happy that certain things are coming up. But you see, we are not looking for favors. Women are 50% of the population.
At the minimum.
At the minimum, yeah. You know, women are there. And so the huge population, the voting population, women are huge. And they are not at the decision table. We have a lot of crisis in Nigeria today. We have Chibok girls that are still you know, many of them, more than 100, are still behind bars. Can you be a parent to any of these ones? So we have a lot of issues. When, you know, some of the men will run from home, they abandon the women, but you have your children, you have to raise them. We have so many single women. We are not asking for respect for women because they are married or unmarried, whoever they are, they have a life to care for. And they have done excellent work. You know, a lot of them have done so well. And we are saying, enable the environment where we can be at the table together. We are the ones who bear the children. I have boys, I have girls. And those are the population that are coming to Nigeria when all of us have vacated. And so, and then the national anthem says the labors of our heroes past shall not be in vain. And I keep emphasizing, the likes of Gambo Sawaba is all the way from the north. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti is from the southwest. Margaret Ekpo is from the south-south. And they played a role, even as Standard 6, you know, graduates. They played a role in the Nigerian independence. And here we are again, you know, on trial. We have millions who are professionals now. Millions of doctors, professors, you know, PhD holders, engineers, and so on and so forth. So we worry about the future of our children. There's a lot of unemployment right now. When children don't even, when they can't even ask their, you know, they can hardly ask fathers for pocket money when, you know, so they come back to you. And we are flustered by a lot of things, which want women to be part of decision-making. Because I always say that the quality of a decision depends on who is in the boardroom. How can you step in about 15 houses of assembly, not one woman? Men are chairs of a women committee. How does that work?
It's really, I mean, there are huge questions as to how we got here, because it wasn't always like this. And even the National Assembly, from 1999 to where we currently are, this is 2022, the figures of women in the National Assembly, if we're just to take that alone, has continued to decline. So there are huge questions as to what is happening to women in terms of political participation. In the private sector, it would seem that they're making a lot more headway, but it's not, it's not corresponding in the political sector. So there are questions as to what is really hindering women from participating. Well, Honorable Kanu, let me come to you. First, before I ask you, as spokesperson of the House, what made the House take this decision, let me ask how you voted. You know, when the bills were first considered. I know the Speaker of the House has said he's going to release that. I do not know if he was just saying it, but we are going to hold him to his promise, because he did say he was going to release how members voted. Are you willing to tell us how you voted?
Well, you see, I speak for... Thank you very much for inviting me first. And I want to congratulate the women once again for the International Women's Day. And also want to celebrate the women for what you are doing.
Thank you.
At the moment, your agitation, your protest has been well coordinated. You know, I see a lot of matured management of that activity, and I really commend your effort. I see prominent individuals with capacity standing there and raising their voices, you know, and we, as National Assembly, we commend you for pushing for what you really want, which is supposed to create the balance that all of us are yearning for. I'm not allowed, as a spokesperson of the House, to speak about myself and my activities, but
I'm sure that, I mean, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, I still remember him saying that in this instance, it is one man, one vote. And there were very, very strong, let's say, rules guiding how the House conducted itself on that day. We saw how he kept on insisting that members had to sit in their chairs in their rightful places because he needed to know how members were voting. And at some point he said everybody's going to be accountable. So in this instance, I would imagine that there will be exceptions to the rules if you're not allowed to speak for yourself. But in this instance, I imagine that there will be an exception, because this is about how men and how generally, because I think almost 97% of the House is made up of men. Well, so we need to know, you know, just how even the person who speaks for the House voted.
Yeah, the report is going to be out like the Speaker promised. He usually keeps his promise. And also the report is also accessible to the public based on freedom of information. You approach the clerk of the National Assembly or the clerk of the House of Representatives, it will be made available to you even before the Speaker decides to make it public. But I must say that I voted for one of those clauses. And the one that passed through the House that has to do with increasing the number of women in the ministerial positions and also at the state executive cabinet. The other ones were dusty at the time it was looked at, and that was why we went back, you know, to look at the message conveyed by those provisions and understood it better and started lobbying the members of the House on the need to retrace our steps. And I was in the forefront with the leadership to make sure that we have members have a second look. Because, truth be said, Section 26 that the women wanted amended, which has to do with expansion of the qualifications on citizenship. It's not a threat to anybody because most of our children overseas are enjoying that when they marry foreign partners. So who is being hurt if the ladies bring in their spouses and they qualify for citizenship? There is nothing wrong with that. It is their entitlement. And we said that we need to, and a wise man do change his mind. If you find out that the direction you're headed, you know, you made a mistake, you have to retrace your step and review things. And this parliament, I must say, is not on ego trip. I've always said that we are sensitive to the yearning of the people. So when you have a population of 101.67 million women, as against your 104.47 million men, and you say you represent the people of Nigeria, women, you know, part of this population, and their tears should touch us. So the next one that they wanted to look at is Section 223. Which has to do with the affirmative action. And we're talking about 35% in political administration. We are saying if you have about 28 members of the executive of a political party and then you're having about 7 or 8 women there, what hurt is it going to cost? So that was another reason why we pulled back. And then indigenship, which you know that we are trying to break barriers as we look forward to becoming a global community. All these, you know, demarcations. We are somebody who is not from Abia State, who has lived in Abia State, qualified to become a chief judge, and because she's a woman and married to an Abia State indigent, she'll be told you cannot be a chief judge. That is discriminatory. That is not supposed to be. And we looked at that and said, yeah, this will affect even our own daughters because we have children, and who is going to be hurt if you get married and you stay there, be of good behavior 5 years and become an indigent, and you are open to the privileges enjoyed by the indigents? What hurt will it make, you know, do to nation building? And that was why we said no, these deprivations are not supposed to be. It will further, you know, lengthen the scope between women and their participation in governance. And as we are striving to bring them closer, because that is the expectation of sustainable development goal. And that is the expectation of participating in the Beijing conference that gave 30% affirmative action to women, though our own national agenda policy has placed it at 35%. And if you look at the average, the global average on this is about 22%. The African average is 23.6%. The West African average is at 16.7%.
And I'm sure Nigeria is the one dragging it down.
Yeah. So we are trying to see how we come up the ladder by making sure that, because what is happening now, let's take for example in the current appointment of women in the Executive Council, you have about 6.7% there. You know, it's not what it ought to be. So we are saying some of these things we can gradually
it's
look
not just
into
what
them.
it ought to be, it's a decline from what it used to be. So, I mean, their question, we're doing better. The question is, you know, why is it so difficult to maintain it and to even do far much more? So it's a good thing that this has been reconsidered. I mean, as you said, a wise man changes his mind.
Yes.
So the question for me was that, is it that these bills were not understood initially, or were there external factors that pressured the men from considering the wordings of the bill? What went wrong? Let me put it that way.
You see, I've always maintained, but I was having a chat with the lady, Mrs. Enobi, before I walked in here, and I said, lobbying is part of democracy. So when you hear lobbying, it is nothing bad. It's part of pushing your agenda to receive a greater buy-in by people who are supposed to make the decision on that particular issue. And now, when you draw up your stakeholders administration list with regards to a particular agenda, there are certain people that must appear there. You don't ignore the constituents that have elected the people who came to National Assembly. And these constituents, through stakeholders meeting with their representative, roundtable conferences, town hall meeting, communicate their desire on a particular issue that is before the National Assembly. Now, you know, from our patriarchal system that we are coming out from, our traditional belief, even our religion, call it Christian religion, call it Islamic religion, projected men to the point of prominence, and women capacity is being looked at in a way that the women are beginning to complain currently. And if you ignore the existence of these as part of our society, you make a mistake. So you need to go the extra mile of making sure that if I have an emir in my place that has a controlling voice in what I do in National Assembly and played a role in my coming to National Assembly, there should be a means of reaching out to him. For him to have a buy-in on, there is no threat in women becoming indigenous of this community. Let's get it go. The emir will reach out to me and say, Benjamin, on this issue, we are together with you, go for it, positive. It gives you confidence, you're governor. These are the stakeholders that should appear on the stakeholders administration list. And the same thing applies to my traditional rulers. It applies to faith-based organizations, applies to political business people. There are controlling forces that made your election possible. And you are not representing yourself. You are representing the people.
So you fear that those controlling forces haven't quite given the support which the lawmakers needed, or did not affirm the decision for the lawmakers to, you know, give the go-ahead, give a yes to the vote which was placed before them?
I feel that the vote of the parliament is not a vote of the parliamentarian, but a vote of the constituency. And therefore, literatures, advocacy materials, marketing tools of this agenda should not only be concentrated at the parliament. It should reach out to all these ones so that we have a holistic buy-in. So that not when I finish voting and I go back to my constituency and they'll ask for my head. So, and we should not play down that religion and culture plays a role in our society. We will get to the point where, you know, these threats will be reduced. People will begin to see the benefit of what the women are asking for. We are not yet there. We are advancing. Remember the PIB. When the PIB came, it took a long time. People believed it wasn't going to be done. Today it has become a PIA. And so with other laws, like the electoral reform, you know, we have had a lot of debates here on the need to have electoral reform. And it has gone back and forward. But at the end of the day, it has been gotten. Why? Because the communications have been done properly. And this is not undermining the effort of the women. To be honest, work has been going on since 1999, but they need to do more to increase the buy-in.
Is it just about the women? Because there are big questions. I was speaking last week to a governor, and I was asking whether this was a function isolation of women. Because if you look at a lot of, I mean, men don't exist in isolation. When I go home now, I'm not going to go to a separate house from that of my husband.
Yes.
I'm married. I'm going to live with my husband. If we have children, we send all of them to school, boy and male and female. So have our lawmakers. A lot of them. Some of them even have their partners in the National Assembly. Some of them have them heading parastatals in other places. So they understand the importance of education, and in many instances they see them as equal. So is it not right that they begin to push, that they begin to enlighten their own constituents, if they're not yet enlightened, on the benefits of this from what they have seen? Or do they themselves feel threatened by it?
No, this is why we have gotten to where we are, 4/5 at the moment, between the last voting and now. And you know, it's not easy to rescind the decision on the constitutional review. We got to where we are today because of what you just said. We engaged, the members of the parliament, engaged the constituents to convince them. The members of parliament went in to lobby on behalf of the women.
You know why this is a bit odd? This is a bit odd because Honorable Onyejocha, I still remember the bill which she sponsored, and she expressed a bit of shock because she said there were over 100 lawmakers sponsoring that bill. She had confidence because the speaker was co-sponsoring the bill with, and as a result, his fellow men lined up and, you know, they were all co-sponsoring the bill. Yet, when it came to the vote, it was seem that nobody understood what it was about in the first instance, or perhaps they didn't realize that what they were co-sponsoring and supporting had come to the vote. So there are questions as to what exactly, was it just an exercise in, let us just say yeah or nay, depending on how we feel, on the speaker's voice?
You're still not paying attention to this very all-important factor of our society. And the law is made for the society. And there are people who play major roles in this society, beyond the parliamentarians. I don't want to present it for Nigerians to see parliamentarians as, okay, you have the powers to do this, you go and do it. No parliamentarian has a power that is not delegated to him by his constituents. If you are doing that, you are presenting yourself. Are you saying you are not representing yourself.
You just said that 50% of your constituents are women.
Are women.
Exactly.
But what happens to the other percentage? And how many of that 50% of our women are occupy the space of the stakeholders administration list? You know, because of the realities in our society, because of our historical background, it's a gradual process we are advancing towards becoming what we ought to be, you know, among the Committee of Nations. And so that when we go for peer review, you know, some of this indicator that is used in measuring how far we have gone with sustainable development goals and all the rest of them, that will come up. It's a desire for some of us who are in government to make sure that we come up from where we are to where we ought to be, so that we'll be looked at favorably when we meet with our colleagues outside the shores of Nigeria. But you see, our society plays a role, and we will keep working until there is a buy-in. The parliament is not the enemies of the women, no. The parliament is in partnership with the women to make sure that their inclusion in governance is increased. We are not happy with the level it is at the moment, but we'll keep pushing for a greater buy-in so that it will be done.
Well, my male colleagues are not leaving me alone on this conversation. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you very much. Honourable, there's still a lot of hurdles to cross on this one, and it's understandable that a lot of attention is being focused on you because essentially the National Assembly has the powers. You've tried to give some insight, but let me come to Madam Obi first before I take this back to the Honourable. So the Honourable has said that, you know what, whatever powers they have has been delegated to them. This is for Madam Obi, by the way. So he says whatever powers they have has been delegated to them by their constituencies. So do you think that the women that make up the 50% block of our population understand, you know, what is at stake here, and they support it? Because by inference, it will be 50% at least of his constituency as well. And if 50% say, this is what we want, then it's only fair. I imagine that almost 30% of the men will follow suit because, I mean, I know men who are, what do you call it, he for she. So let me just ask, do you have an authority that, you know, the women in Nigeria, 50% that make up the population, are in support of this?
I first want to commend those who voted for the bill. You know, I want to commend the leadership of the House of Representatives. We're still waiting for the Senate.
No, I don't think they voted on it just yet.
Voted. No, they vote, the earlier vote.
Oh, the earlier one,
that
okay.
The majority carried the day.
Okay.
You know, we want to appreciate them, and
thank you.
We are happy that, you know, they went back yesterday, listening to us and for us staying at the gate, you know, into the protest. The 50% of the population, women are the heaviest voters. And that is why we are asking for the list, because we also want to look for the list so that those 50% can engage them at the constitution, you know, at the constituent levels. And it is important to see how we are voting, you know, because these are realities here. I'm married, I'm from Benue, I'm married to somebody from Anambra State. What it means is that I cannot, all this while, to go into election is a different thing entirely. You know, and so many people. So what Honorable is saying is, yes, I don't want this to happen to my daughters, but it happened to your mom. Those who were your mothers, it happened to them. And this is the reality. And that's why we say we are on trial. And it is important. Going forward, we are going to 2023. The lives of our sister Salome was burnt down, broad daylight, a woman inside her room. A mob went and burnt her down. Gender-based violence on elections. And so when you have a reduction on the representation, a lot of women that you have mobilized, some of them fear for their lives. And so there are so many things that negate, despite the issues of patriarchy, you know, the issues of culture, the issues of religion, both religion, you know, that is major in Nigeria, subjugates women. And the culture also subjugates women. But in a lot of ways, there is an appreciation. If you go into farming, you know, women farmers, you know, actually currently holds the Secretariat of Small-Scale Holder Women Farmers. 75% of the farmers, you know, are women. And so their contribution to the economy is not even recorded or is not even seen. They are not to be seen because men really go into where you have massive cash, you know, produce and things like that. And so today we are calling for the names because we want to engage them. All those who vote against, let's just have their names. If they don't understand, we will help them to understand what we are talking about. But I'm happy that it's not just, you know, when you have a block of people, we have to realize that not all of them are anti the kind of perception that we're talking about. Some people are fighting very hard for this bill to go through. If we have 6.7% of women representation in parliament, that's a male parliament. It's a male parliament. The decisions, you know, we are at the last 5 of, you know, at the bottom list of maternal mortality in the world. And that means that any woman who is pregnant is on a maternity death road. We are losing so many of our women in the villages, in so many places. There is no way that men will tell you what it is to feel, to be in labor ward. And when women have obstruction, you know, our medical doctors were on stage yesterday, you know, at the National Assembly, you know, gate there, telling us about the confusion they have with women at childbirth. And so we are saying, if women are in charge of the production of the human capital of this country, yes, we have the men. Nobody is saying that we're against the men because we need them. Oh, my husband is there. My children, my sons are there. I love them so much. My grandpa, my dad, and everybody. We are not saying delete. You can't delete our children now. So we are in it together. We want our daughters and our sons to be on the decision table together. That's why they struggle. That's why a woman would tie her wrapper, sell all her gold to make sure that both the boys and the girls under her, the humans that she's protecting, they are protected and they have quality education for their future to be bright. Women, so if we have a situation where you have about 100 million Nigerians below the poverty line, what that means is so many of our sisters are crying every day to have food to put on the table for their children. The humans that is under them, they need to cater for them. And so the belief is, you know, in all of it is that we need the progress of this country. And for the Sustainable Development Goals, so many goals are on issues of education, issues of poverty eradication, and so on and so forth. How do you do it? when the decision that is taken is upside down like this, when the population is like this, when you are cheating yourself because you are not doing the women any favor, but making sure you have quality.
So the question for me right now is, what is the guarantee that this is going to produce any different results? Yes, they have decided that they're going to rescind their decision on at least 3 or 4 of the bills, which is a good step, but it's still going to be put to vote again. How do we know?
We are still at the gate. We are still at the gate right now. We are waiting for the Senate. You know, we want the House of Representatives to up their game. They have done well. We commend you, commend your team. We still ask for the list, and we wait for the Senate to do their own bit. I'm going back to the gate now. You know, all colleagues are at the gate, and we continue to occupy the National Assembly. We want to see how they are voting. If there is a promise or something that if the Senate goes back and they do the needful, we don't want anybody to come and even talk to us. You know, do the needful, and then you come back. If you are able to do that and you say in 4 weeks they are going to process it adequately, we wait. We'll come back to the gate.
So, Honorable, the questions are
and sorry, it's not just coming back to the gate. When we get angry, we'll go inside. You know, and we are now mobilizing very elderly women too. Those who are retired, who know that they need to leave their legacy, to come to the National Assembly. It will not be nice, but we will get there.
Well, you're one chamber of the National Assembly. What has the response been since you took this decision? Have you gotten any feedback from the Senate?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me also start by saying that I commend the women, the work you're doing. I also commend how you have handled it decently.
We're almost out of time, Honorable.
Yeah, so on the issue of communication with the Senate, you know, Section 60 and Section 101 of the Constitution allows us to regulate ourselves. And many have argued, is there going to be harmonization? Is there not going to be harmonization? But we are relying, like you heard the speaker say, we are relying on this Section 60 and Section 101 to, you know, regulate our activities, and that includes getting the Senate to see things from the perspective we have seen things. It's not the first time it's happening. Remember, when it comes to electronic transmission, we took a different position and they took a different position. Later on, there was a buy-in from them. And when it came to 3%, 5%, they took a different position. We took a different position. Later on, there was a buy-in. This is another piece of lawmaking. It won't be different from what we have done previously. So we will regulate ourselves and make sure we push it out. But I will advise the women, don't just sit at the gate. Let there be some literatures also sent in to every member of the parliament conversing these ideas. You know, write to the members of the parliament, members of House of Representatives, write to members of the Senate. Don't just sit at the gate, so that they will look at it and build their conscience towards your own agenda. It is doable, but you need to communicate more positively and more effectively.
Well, we have to thank both of you for coming on the program this morning. Honorable Benjamin Kalu is the Chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs, and NLB is the convener, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. We have feedback from our viewers this morning, and I'll take the first two. Professor Enakena says, for Nigeria to evolve politically and economically, Nigerians must desist from pedantic views about women and capabilities to enhance their total inclusivity. We must look within and patronize or support the ambitions of women with abilities in the polity. And Child 066 says, this Ebonyi judgment is a test case. I hope all legal options will be exhausted. But my question is, what now happens to all the senators and legislators who have decamped without any visible crisis in the national body of their political parties? Big question.
Well, we could keep asking those questions, Marco, but if we allow ourselves to take all of the messages, we'll definitely be no questions to ask tomorrow. But Kingsley, Oshinawa, Festus Akinboyewa, Ngozi Okole, Olagunjo Oladele, we got all of your messages. Thank you so much for being a part of our program this morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day, and God bless Nigeria.
I say amen to that. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
And I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Have a good day.